Can I crack open one of these Pringles?
I already fucking did. I already
did.
the seal.
Sam, you're missing out on the.
This is my first Pringles in the fucking.
You're missing out on the studio.
You got replenished new snacks.
Yeah, it's like a fucking WeWork up here.
I was thinking
amenities.
like bunker.
I guess that is where WeWork gets, or like all these offices get their snacks. Is Costco.
I already went through a bag of Cheez-Its, small bag of Cheez-Its. Now I'm onto my little mini Pringle can. We have
So
3 flavors.
Are you trying to incentivize me to
Come into the office? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, back to the office time.
You gotta get some Pocky Sticks up here again.
Eric Adams is in the room right now with us.
Fucking Pirate Booty.
Oh, Pirate Booty is never coming back. I'm sorry.
Never coming back?
No, there
Why
was
not?
there was an HR complaint about Pirate Booty.
For real? What happened?
I mean, just an insensitive term.
Oh,
You know.
for the people who've been plundered.
No, for the pirates.
Oh,
They think pirates is an insensitive. I guess I shouldn't say it. The P word. You know, the P slur.
I thought you were doing a Belgian thing for a second.
Maybe.
I thought you were telling me that Pirate Booty had gone out of business.
No. No, pirate. The word pirate has been canceled hypothetically in this.
Yeah, by the Dutch East India Company.
Exactly.
¡Hey, sabes!
That's right. We're back after what feels like an eternity. Episode 249 of You from 202. In June, mid-June. It has felt like, it's been like 3 weeks, right?
Literally.
2 weeks?
2.5. Well, no. 3 weeks.
Okay, I think it's been enough time where we should talk. Why did Lindor pinch it? Did we find out about?
He's got that dog in him. He could tell.
Like he just needed to come out. Like it's been enough time where we're pivoting
we've
sports, right?
I've seen 3 baseball games in the time since I've seen a soccer game, and I've played in several more softball games. So yeah, that's really my basis of comparison. I've even caught a foul ball at a baseball game, and I've never caught a errant shot.
Wow, has it been that long where you have not told this story on this podcast yet?
Yeah, I think that's true. I've told this story like 8 times now, and I'm losing track of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to devote the whole first hour of this to
Catch you up on all the lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cork and I went down to Coney Island to go to a Brooklyn Cyclones game, and of course, it was Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville bucket hat day. People were into this. I didn't think twice when we walked in. They gave it to us. And we stuck it out for the doubleheader because this is something some of the older New Yorkers might remember. The smoke incident from about 2 weeks ago. This was that week. So
Smoked out, loked out.
yeah, our week of being California. It was a rescheduled doubleheader. So we were devoted. We're some of the most diehard Cyclones fans that you'll see out there. So we were sitting there into the last inning of the doubleheader, and somebody had come up to us and asked just point blank, "Do you guys want your hats?" Now,
And I was a sap. I gave it up immediately. I was intimidated.
Yeah.
I did not. I was avoiding conflict.
in my
and just gave
memory,
it up.
this was probably like a 25-year-old woman. I think it was. Yeah. Just to paint the full picture. But, but to your credit, like, I don't think that my honest answer to the question probably was no, but I just am such a sucker for swag that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep my fucking hat. So I kept it. And then I think
I aggressively did not really like the hat, both design wise and aesthetic context wise, because just Jimmy Buffett's not.
You
my
could
thing.
not figure you wearing that hat into your regular life.
Something a little bit more adjacent. If it was like Brian Wilson hat night, or if it was like if it was I don't know, fucking Dick Dale hat night, maybe I'd be down for it. But Jimmy Buffett hat night, I'm just like, I don't know. You can have my hat.
Yeah, a Wilson Brothers, Charlie Manson crossover.
Yeah,
hat,
exactly.
I was joking with my dad that I'm sure eventually they'll have a Grateful Dead night as well. So I'll get him some swag for that. But I refuse. I hold on to my hat, even though I honestly don't think I would ever wear it. Not really a bucket hat guy in general. And the Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville pattern. I don't know. Although it was like so ridiculous that it might have like flipped around to being useful for something eventually. Who knows? Maybe a beach day. Like 2 batters later or something, lo and behold, the moment finally comes where a foul ball is hit our way and it's got that backspin. It's going behind us. It bounces, and off one bounce, I catch it. Very exciting. But among this hubbub,
You brought your glove to the game.
I did not.
I'm just like imagining you as like a little kid with his glove at the game.
there was a teenager, I think, with a glove,
Yeah.
not far away. Among this hubbub, when I stood up, I think, all the peanut shells and like cups and everything beneath me had pushed everything around, and my hat fell down to the next row. And after sitting down, someone came down the aisle. We were sitting right on the aisle, and without stopping, bent over and picked it up and kept going. And before I could even be like, wait a second, was that my hat? They were fucking gone.
Just got finessed.
Yeah. And somebody like a section over was like, did they just steal your hat? I was like, yeah, they fucking did. And then when we were taking the train back and I transferred to my final train, that same person was on my train, was like, hey, look, guys, it's the guy who got his hat stolen. So I was glad I could be a character in this today for someone else. Then I was telling the story.
I mean, this is what you get, though, for voting for crime in New York.
Yeah, it's true. If Curtis was there, there would have been everyone would have gotten a different kind of hat handed out to them. I'll just say that. I was telling the story at work.
I'll come out
I
for
wouldn't
that,
get that
man.
hat.
Yeah, for real.
A Cyclones beret.
Cyclones, Angels hat. Yeah.
With the BC on it. Actually, that'd be pretty sick. That's actually
Brooklyn
probably
Cyclones, if you're listening, Guardian Angels night would be really weird.
It probably has happened before.
That's one thing that would go even beyond pigeons as far as something that I would begrudgingly respect in NYCFC fan culture is if they wore Guardians Angels berets.
Would it be funnier if they switched them to blue or if they just kept them red?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody did tweet an amazing photo today where apparently Big Kurt and Queen Latifah were like King Neptune and Queen Mermaid at the Mermaid Parade in 1999. It's an incredible photo. Really just such a document. Telling the story at work, and then one of my coworkers is like, wait, what? There's a Jimmy Buffett Brooklyn Cyclones hat? She's like, you don't understand. My dad is obsessed with Jimmy Buffett, and he's from Brooklyn. And she went on to eBay, and this is 2 days later, and looked and immediately bought one. And somebody was selling one for $30.
Yeah.
And he's already got it. She showed me a photo. He loves it.
It was your hat.
It was probably my hat.
Yeah.
And then at the Mets game this weekend, we saw like
Multiple people,
multiple
yeah. 6
people, but
people.
literally the guy sitting in front of us was wearing a fucking Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville hat.
That guy was loving our bits.
I think it's always Margaritaville Day for that guy.
Yeah. Honestly, that was a core baseball game experience where his friends kind of just disappeared to get food for 2 innings. And he was just, had a couple margaritas and was just looking for someone to talk to. And it's like, God, man, where are this guy's friends getting back?
Yeah.
But he did provide an essential baseball experience of being like a guy you randomly high five after a home run.
That's true.
So-
that was nice. Yeah, when we
needed that.
Yeah, yeah.
We saw the home run apple, although not a win. Yeah.
Yeah, still haven't seen a win this season, unfortunately.
Sam, how are the Yankees doing?
The Yankees are third in the AL East, but they're like, 7 games over 500? I think they're in a wild card spot. I'm pretty sure all of the AL East occupies wild card spots, or maybe 2 out of 3.
Like everybody except the Red Sox, I think.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the Mets and the Astros are playing right now, so it's kind of my two teams doing it out. They're both struggling real bad. I think the Yankees have lost a couple games, but they're still in a much better position. But,
they got swept by the Red Sox.
Jesus.
They're still doing fine.
Rough time in New York sports
baseball.
right now.
For the New York game.
The New York game, so true. But anyway, at least I at this point, my hat getting stolen has given me more than I think the hat would have itself. So I think it's fine.
Isn't going to be a promo coming up at RBA? If not this game,
Jimmy
the
Buffett,
next.
Margaritaville,
Jimmy
RBA.
Buffett, Jimmy Buffett, bear pill bottle or whatever that one promo was.
I'm waiting for a Seinfeld night at RBA with the jean jacket that Elaine's wearing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is a Seinfeld night at the Cyclones game where it's like George on a
dolphin,
or something. But yeah, so in conclusion, guy comes up, says Bert Kreischer promo in 101. Ew, no, human resources. Calling human resources. Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville night at the Cyclones game. Oh, God.
I was trying to figure out how we shovel Mrs. Met wearing that fit to the...
That's an offline bit. I'm gonna exercise some editorial discretion and say that is going to remain offline. All discussion of Mrs. Matt. This is a respectful podcast.
So it is Pride Night against Atlanta on the 24th.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's Pride weekend too, so that matches. But that also means that people will probably be busy. But
yeah, we're getting Pride sunglasses, and then I was about to say it's going to be another fireworks night, and gonna let Sass know, but instead fireworks. He'll have to wait until August 26th for his next fireworks night.
Well, circle the date. Well, there was the game that happened before all of this, which is a 3-0 loss to Orlando. It feels like forever ago at this point. But it was a sort of...
It's a very well-timed game to get
interesting game, you know? I will say, after the half at this game, I was feeling quite bullish about the game. We gave up a goal with, Tolkien was pushed up forward because we were on the front foot, created space in behind him, and Nealis got kind of stuck in no man's land. They played a good ball in behind and scored on us in the first half. So it was a well-earned goal on Orlando's part, but we were playing pretty fluidly and pretty attacking. And I felt pretty good about the situation. I think it was a pretty good example of something we've been talking about this season on how, the trade-off between playing a little bit more daring, but also that being a little bit more risky versus the sort of risk-averse clogging stuff of the previous Red Bulls regime. So this was a game at halftime. I was like, yeah, we're losing, but you know what? You're going to give up some goals sometimes when you try to actually play. So I'll take it, especially given
sometimes
the context
to make
of our
an omelet,
season.
You got to crack some eggs.
Exactly.
And I would argue that by the points, that would prove that at, taking that risk of, maybe losing a 3-0 game every once in a while, but also winning generally has been proving to be a more winning formula than just losing 0-0.
Well, and I also think, this game gets turned on its head 5 minutes into the second half with the second yellow to Carlos Rivas. Fucking hell. I was just looking at our previous episode list to see our numbers, so I just saw the title Bizarro Carlos Rivas. To Bearded Reyes. Second yellow to Andres Reyes. And then the penalty called on Sean Nealis 3 minutes later. This game goes way the different direction. And ultimately, Troy even tries to pull off this move of putting Frankie Amaya in as a sort of shuttler to maybe try to get a little bit more distribution and still nick a couple goals while responding to losing a defender, and it doesn't pay off, to say the least. Frankie loses a foot race as part of Orlando's final goal to kind of seal the match. But that really is the pivotal moment in this game. So even to your point, Beaches, I think that if that sending off doesn't happen and the pretty unlucky or the pretty, I don't know, I don't want to sound too much sour grapes, but kind of weak penalty doesn't happen, that I think that's a game that's back and forth. I think that it's definitely a case where the score line is less flattering than it could be, because we were just like trying to throw something at the wall to get back in the game when we could have just been conservative and closed up shop 1-0 when we went a man down.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like it's interesting because it's both kind of the game that we were expecting to happen at some point under Struber, where we would eventually get broken open and have a really bad lopsided home result. But then it's also like we've been saying a couple times here now on this episode, where it's like I use the metaphor to make an omelet, you got to crack a few eggs. And it's also like you were just saying just now, Brit, where it's like, yeah, maybe we could have salvaged a better score line if we closed up shop and played cynically or whatever. But when you open yourself up a little bit, when you try and take some risks, you're going to lose some games 0-3. And it's honestly like part of the zone, part of both under Armas and now under Struber, especially under Struber, where it seemed like the entire focus of the way the team was set up was to avoid, huge, shellacking games as opposed to,
trying to win it outright.
Right. And just maybe taking your lumps here and there in a few games as they come. So yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, you make an omelet, you have to crack a few eggs. We weren't even trying to make an omelet before. We were trying to avoid cracking any eggs.
Boiling some eggs.
We were trying to avoid staining any of the pots and pans. We were trying to just, have a nice little display for everybody to see, and it was not doing very well.
Struber always put a little bit of vinegar in the water, even though it didn't really do anything.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
To soft boil it. I mean, I also, I just I'm gonna buy into gambler's fallacy a little bit and be like, we had one of these coming. It came at a good time for it to come. Like one of those games where you just like lose that momentum and it never comes back for whatever reason outside of your control. So yeah, I'm taking it as kind of my way of coping, being like, we got that out of the way. Like we can take apparently like a month of time to process that and get over it.
Yeah, I do wonder if that was actually, you know what? Like I was about to say, I wonder if it snuck into the team's mind that like, oh, we're on the brink of a international break where we get to rest up. But I don't even think that's true.
Yeah.
Because like the as I said, the first goal I think is like both a legit sort of positional mistake on our team, or just kind of pushing forward, but also, well worked by Orlando. We gave up that goal legit. The second one, really like a bizarre penalty in that like Orlando themselves were not complaining. It was the kind of thing that you see a million times in a soccer game and no one ever notices or complains about it. Again, I mean, the fact that Orlando was not even noticing it themselves goes a long way for that. Already 2-0 down with a man off. That's huge. And the third one is a situation that literally only happens when you're trying to do something a bit desperate to get back in the game, which is like not going to be a situation that ideally will be repeated down the line as terms of like how this team generally plays. So it's like, all things considered, the team didn't really even fall apart. It was the switch to have Amaya be the sweeper, like fell apart and gave the third goal. And I think it was still interesting to see maybe like how an adjustment like that could work.
Right.
Especially given like kind of what we talked about earlier in the season, the sort of sense of house money. Like Struber left this team in such a hole in the standings that it's not like we're guarding like a top half finish, or like a like top 3 finish or something in the table. I think like the goal for this season is that like making the playoffs definitely attainable. Could even get into like, a decent 4 or 5 seed if we get good form. But it's not, I think, the kind of situation where we are on a knife's edge, like trying to get every point,
can't possibly drop any points.
Shield's gone.
Yeah, like I think it's like still
Shield
kind of
has been gone.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like, the more valuable thing I think is to figure out what what the kind of possibilities are on the squad, and try to build into
Make a
next
run.
year. make a run. I think like there is still the aspect of like we definitely can and probably should be at least the 9th place team in the conference. As crazy as it is that there's 9 playoff seeds, I'm not too worried actually about making playoffs, to be honest, given our recent form, even with this loss. So yeah, I actually kind of like that we rolled the dice trying to get something back in. Because honestly, like, were we going to score 2 goals to get back in the game without taking a gambit like that? Not really, no. So it's not, I to some extent I get how people, I think, were eager to grasp onto some sort of catharsis of having a crooked scoreline, because the whole Struber situation was so frustrating, and that like we never really did have that many cathartic losses under him. Everything was just ugly sludge, and it didn't feel like there was a proper moment to really let it all hang out. So maybe it was just a sort of deferred moment for some people to get upset about that. But I think that moment's passed, and in hindsight, everyone kind of sees this game for what it was. And also in some ways, yeah, go ahead, Sam.
I was going to say, I mean, to me, like it, chalk it up to an uncharacteristically bad performance by the center backs and just move on. Like a loss is a loss. It's not that big of a deal. Whether or not that's the referees doing whatever, but, in most other situations, our center backs have been pretty solid and will continue to be that way moving forward. So I don't know, 1-0, 3-0 doesn't really make a huge difference to me. I think that the big concern, after this one is the way that Lewis Morgan, who comes in later on in the game, the way that he exits. I think, going back to your point and building the team to be at least a 9th place, finishing squad, you would have somebody like that healthy. And, there's a lot of ambiguity there. I think my understanding is that he's not, there's no update on his injury. But the way he left the field was definitely a cause for concern.
Yeah, that was Morgan's first game back, I believe, although he might have subbed in against Miami. But he did come off in the second half, I believe.
With a non-contact injury?
Yeah, it was a bit weird too for me from the stands, because he went down and then he like immediately, no, I think he was maybe even still standing or something, but he immediately was like upset and went over to Duncan and was saying something and was like shaking his head,
covering his face with his
something
shirt.
Was clearly off. But like the thing that threw me off was that he was walking around like totally normally. Like he wasn't taking any weight off of his legs or anything. He wasn't like, he walked over and then he went over to the bench and he like stood over by the 4th ref station for a while. He was like not sitting. He like didn't, but like he had all of the reactions of someone's like, who was just like, oh, I completely just fucked like a tendon or a ligament or something. But he looked physically fine, and it really confused me. And it gave me like this weird sense of hope that maybe it was something else. But yeah, I think Troy did confirm that he is hurt, I think, with not too many details, but like he's going to be sidelined.
It's a setback, yeah.
Yeah, for a while, which is a bummer. I don't know if it's the same injury or if it's a new one.
It's something to do, I'm pretty sure the initial injury has to do with like hip and thigh area, so that could explain the ability to walk without the ability to fully
play.
Yeah, expend yourself.
Yeah.
Touch a ball,
Yeah. Well, tough one, and in some ways this is a return to tradition, because I feel like even in the high-flying seasons like 2015 and maybe 2018 too, we often have had sort of bizarre clangers against Orlando, where they come in and put a few weird fast breaks on us.
Pretty sure it was 2019, the one where Sasha Kljestan scored at RBA.
Yeah. And
which was part of the zone. Big part of the zone.
Carlos Rivas scored on us in 2015, I think.
Right.
If not, maybe a season later, which is a funny one. One thing that did sort of annoy me more than I expected was that Orlando, with every goal, was acting like it was a cup final. I was like, calm down. It's like, like in the lower half of the table, guys. I mean, I'm flattered. This is how people used to react when they played us in like 2018. So like maybe
It's also just kind of like the Perea sort of ethos is to just be kind of like shithousers and treat every game like a final and all that kind of shit.
yeah. That Janssen guy also was screaming his fucking head off again.
Yeah.
I can't tell if he's just like that every week or if it's something about us that annoys him. Well, on to the next. I guess Andres Reyes will be suspended for Wednesday's game, right? It's only one game because it's not violent conduct. I will say his first yellow, maybe I jinxed it because his first yellow in the stands, I was like, ooh, that was a good hit. I'd be proud of that hit. He like really like properly
Body checked him.
a guy into the ground. I was like, yeah, if you're gonna get a yellow, like make it count, you know. But maybe that put him on thinner ice for the second
Right.
one. Although the second one was a yellow too. So probably like a legit yellow the way he grabbed at his arm. So I think just some questionable decisions there. But maybe we'll see, I guess, Hassan Dam and Sean Nealis together on Wednesday at least. I do think that this is highlighting maybe the strangest part of our off season is just having Aaron Long walk and seemingly there being very little interest in reinforcing that position. Is there something with John Tolkien happening as well? I feel like there was
Gold
some
Cup call up.
Oh yeah, he's being rumored to have a Gold Cup.
Oh, it's a
No, he was
confirmed Gold
on
Cup
the
call.
roster.
Confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be gone for a month.
Great.
Yeah.
So we don't really have any left backs.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been a weird, long-standing issue going back to Kemar Lawrence, where this club has been
One left back.
allergic to
One
having
left back
left back
policy.
depth. Yeah, I don't know what the deal
even
is.
when they actually did have Jason Pendant as a backup left back last
Right.
year, Struber pretended like he didn't exist so he could go on his whole "I have no players" routine.
And then like having Duncan play over there.
yeah, Jesus.
Yeah. And it's like Pendon had some weak moments
I
still,
think
but
Edwards
it was like
played over there sometimes.
yeah,
too.
but it was like I don't know. And then we had a couple of the like, you know, I'm gonna call them quadruple A guys that were US the two team signings that were given a pro contract
like
that
Segrist and
Cutler or
Right.
everything. Who none of them stuck. But yeah, so some back line. Does that mean Tolkien's missing Wednesday too?
I don't think it's happening just yet because they're still doing Nations League.
Oh,
Well, they
yeah.
just
Liga
finished.
de
In,
Nations.
yeah, they finished. They won the Nations League.
Oh yeah, I accidentally caught 20 minutes of that last
The
night.
Canada game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw the Mexico game. That was a wild game.
I missed that.
4 red cards.
But
Good for them.
yeah, and then I
Yeah,
guess
soccer is back, baby.
Daniel Edelman is coming back. He got linked with a potential transfer out. I don't know how much smoke or how much fire there is behind that smoke, but something to watch out for.
It's kind of a thing. I mean, to just go off on a quick gripe about the general scene, it has become kind of a thing where the Rubicon has been crossed for some time now. That like, if you're playing in MLS, if you're a regular starter in MLS, you have European interest inherently.
Yeah.
Like European scouts are watching MLS games. You're an option to a European club if you're playing in MLS. Like, so it's not necessarily news that,
Especially if
like-
you're under 20.
right, exactly. So it's not necessarily news that teams are looking at, you know, players, especially younger players, like you just said, Brit. You know, the next step is when you actually hear stuff like specific clubs and like official bids being lodged and stuff like that. But just players being monitored or watched or interest, like it's not news. We need to stop pretending like that's news, and I'll get off my soapbox there. But
Just like getting called up for a youth team.
right, yeah. I mean,
Oh, here's the classic gang of 3 clubs from Belgium, Netherlands, and Israel.
yeah, exactly. Could be fucking anybody.
Yeah. You know, throw in Luxembourg there too. They should just
Yeah.
like start saying Benelux to make it sound like a little extra. But yeah, we'll find out.
Yeah, I guarantee you that if somebody tries to buy Daniel Edelman, we will hear about it.
To quote the great Buck, this is why they play the games. You know, this is.
I guarantee you, our curiosity will be satisfied.
Yeah. But yeah, so other news, I guess, as we mentioned, Lewis Morgan is hurt again, unfortunately. But then we have brought in a new assistant manager, Zach Prince, the guy with a name that sounds like he should have a 5,000 word Vice article about his activities in Afghanistan, has joined the New York Red Bulls front coaching staff.
He actually used to be like a Navy sub engineer.
Really?
So
Yeah, right.
Theoretically, Vice could have,
Perfect.
set him up.
Yeah, where, have him and okay, I'm gonna avoid that. But Zach Prince, yeah, he was the manager of New Mexico, or was he?
Yeah,
still
he was Lasane's assistant at New
Right.
Mexico, and then took over as manager when Lasane came here, and then he was the captain of the Charleston Battery when Lasane was the assistant there, and I was a front office grunt there. So, just more low country flavor entering the back room. It's hard to say. I mean, same thing with Lasane, where it's just kind of like, there's only so much you could say off of USL results, and it's the fact that they've been networked and headhunted for these kinds of jobs means more than some kind of wins and losses as they are, but kind of the exact person you would expect Lasane to go and get. And again, another example of, I mean, we'll see what the long-term scope of it is, but the fact that Lasane is being given the permanent manager job and being allowed to sort of set up his own regime, so to speak. And we'll see how much capital he has to work with as we move into what you would expect to be his first off season. So just kind of laying down some more of those roots and getting things in place, and kind of speaking to what we were just saying earlier in the episode about how the rest of the season is trying to get some patterns in place, getting some sort of controls in place so you can get an idea of what needs to change about the squad going into next year.
He, I was saying before the episode too, has a great set of initials for training kit. ZP.
Yeah.
Troy also had a great, TL was a pretty good, I think, training kit initial set.
GS is weak. There's something wrong about GS.
Very true.
GS boys,
EE
stanky
too,
leg.
to be honest.
Yeah. CA is all right.
Yeah.
JM's pretty classic.
Yeah.
I gotta say. CA just makes it sound like Club America, but hey, there are worse things.
We gotta talk about the biggest signing in MLS history. We finally got him, folks.
Mm-hmm.
He's finally coming to MLS. It's fucking, I don't know, like Eric Sorga or whoever. I don't know, like whatever random guy DC's just signed. I don't know. I haven't been checking the waiver wires, but
did they bring Ravel Morrison back?
oh fuck, that's who I meant to say. Yeah.
Did that actually happen?
Ravel's finally coming back now.
He's coming
I wish. That would be that's who I would give a cut of the Apple profits to, is Ravel Morrison.
Actually, MLS, I know who you're thinking of. It's that MLS has signed Ivan Toney, but exclusively as their betting partner, not to play.
Spokesperson. Yeah,
just
you're the designated bettor of the day.
Yeah,
Ivan
exactly.
Toney.
They're gonna make him pass a scratch off down the row and back at every MLS game. But yeah, I do wonder when Troy called up Zach. We use first names here. We're all pals. If he was like, okay, I have this job to the end of the year, but I wonder if he has any sense of like feeling comfortable about longer term plans, or just if there's a point where you acknowledge like, hey, I guess if we really screw the pooch, there is a chance that like we both just don't get renewed. But one would think that bringing in another person would point towards there being a longer leash. That I don't know. I guess it does make me think like, what would be the sort of scenario where he wouldn't be given another season?
Right. And I mean, it does get into, I mean, some of the press release about Prince coming in was actually fairly detailed in talking about how, I mean, at first team level, he's going to allow Lesane to step back and observe, as opposed to having to be, I mean, Lesane's had to actually, you know, run the warm-ups in his suit since he took over. So just having a literal extra body with the first team will be huge. But then they also mentioned that Prince is going to be observing and kind of sitting in and sort of trying to shape the way reserves and academy teams will be setting up. And it's just sort of a thing where it's, you know, not to prejudge Zach Prince's credentials and his qualities as a coach, because as of yet, they are, you know, vouched for by Lesane and the club for bringing him on. But that being said, in the premise that this club is kind of a, you know, big organism, a big kind of like self-sustaining machine, that, you know, kind of has, you know, high standards, and that each roll up and down the ladder is an important one. I think the fact that you just over the course of a couple months just give the entire keys to a couple of guys from South Carolina is a little bit strange. In the entire context of having that be the way you set up a club. That, you know, just two guys who, you know, neither of which obviously have first division coaching experience, and, you know, even that's a fairly low bar for what you would want this club to have as the profile of their management team. So little odd is all I'll say. And like I said, it's not to prejudge them. And I'll continue to say that I thought it was a very interesting and pretty neat quote from Jochen Schneider when Lesane took over, where he said that, you know, I've seen coaching careers, really good coaching careers, start this way. And it's true. That, you know, if you know, nobody would ever become, you know, major soccer coach if they didn't ever get their first job somewhere. So that's true. But also, you know, this is a club that has a high bar. And then the fact that Struber left was an example of this club having a high bar. And, you know, it's just a little bit of a thin premise for Lesane and now Prince to rule by is all I'll say.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, because it does take me back to when Lesane was hired. I mean, it did make us raise a couple eyebrows, because it was a noticeable difference from all of the, you know, more Bernd Eibler type hires and kind of
right.
guys. And it really, from a distance, looked like, oh, this could be like just screams of potential secession plan, you know, right. Which was interesting, because we, in so many other ways, got no indication of that happening at the same time. It makes me wonder, like, you know, what the vetting was, or like how much of that was a discussion when they brought on Troy. I mean, even at my most pessimistic or critical of our current regime, I still have to imagine that was part of the discussion of like bringing him on was like, well, this would be somebody to, you know, pilot the ship if Struber leaves. I guess the more cynical version of that is assuming that Struber's leaving to graduate to go somewhere else, not that we would fire him, or, you know, leave by mutual consent or whatever they want to call it. But yeah, it is interesting. It also kind of reminds me, you know, of I guess Jesse had been assistant coach for the national team before coaching us, but had not coached as a you know, proper manager, I think, before. And that was sort of a
besides the Montreal thing where he also was not.
Oh,
really,
you're right.
But that was also a thing where he left because he was not given the full keys. Like,
right. Yeah. And that was and it's easy to forget now, but that really was such a gamble of going all in on Jesse and Ollie Curtis,
Right.
And paid off immediately. But I think people understandably were skeptical of the move at first. So it is interesting to see kind of a wholesale switch over so quickly. But hey, hopefully it does take off in a similar way. And I guess maybe the more optimistic look is that they had an eye towards this when they brought him in as the assistant guy going way back. But even imagining like this kind of conversation, it's unclear to me who would be having this conversation. Is Schneider and Hamlet talking to each other? Are they talking with Mintzlaff somewhere? Like, who are even the people? Where is the there? Who are the people in the room? I don't know. Maybe that will continue to hopefully deepen in the coming months, just having more sense of the club having more substance, but who knows? That's sort of like the eternal wish list. But yeah, this week though, we've got two opponents. We've got Charlotte on Wednesday and Atlanta on Saturday. A 2-week game after having no games for 3 weeks. What are we expecting from this? We've played both of these teams before this season. Let me look at it now. We tied Charlotte 1-1, and then lost to Atlanta 1-0 in back-to-back weeks at the end of March. This was, in the Struber era, though, so we haven't played them under new management. The Atlanta game, of course, was the loss away with Yakumakis scoring early in the game, and Charlotte was the game where we scored or gave up a late goal away from home, and then Elias Manuel scored one of his only goals of the season on the giveaway or the intercept pass sort of in the other end at Charlotte. I think one of the kind of better examples of that period of us not really creating chances and kind of just being opportune when we can, but also still being prone to making mistakes, even if our expected goals against was super low. All it takes is one weird bounce to have something go wrong catastrophically. So I think it's a fresh opportunity for both of these opponents this week. How many points do you think we can ultimately expect out of two home matches in the peak of summer here? Both at 7:30 though, so hopefully not too hot. It's been pretty temperate in general too.
I'm thinking, it would always be nice to get 6 points, but I think especially right now, coming off of the lopsided home loss, and just generally this team being in need of, a couple of good results at home for the first time in it feels like ages. This one would be a nice little one to get the vibes going. It should be a nice little, quick turnaround. If you get a good result against Charlotte, you can keep that same energy against Atlanta. Hopefully with the team rested from the break, you don't have to change up personnel too much. You're going to be getting Reyes coming back. So seems like a kind of prime opportunity to actually start some kind of streak. But I continue to think, or agree with the general premise that we've had and, kind of laid out earlier in this episode, that the rest of this season is just kind of house money and re-engineering for the next run at things.
Yeah, I think I would accept like 2 points per game, like as a average going forward. So 4 points out of these.
I think it's pretty.
I know, high.
Yeah,
I'm saying, but like I'm saying, like if we got 4 points out of these next two games
for just our home games, maybe that okay.
I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that, or like I would consider that a successful result.
Yeah,
that's what I mean by that. That like that sets the standard of like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah,
no problem with that. I mean, I feel like sorry, Brit. The house money analogy still kind of holds true, especially as long as you have Drew Yearwood running as the 10 in whatever formation we put together. And, with Morgan out for what appears to be a longer period of time, I feel like we're just going to see like a rotating cast, of like attacking players kind of filling that spot, whether it's Barlow, Vanzier, Manuel, whomever. But I think 4 points seems pretty appropriate for these two games. I don't think either of these two teams are particularly good. I feel like I've seen way too much of Charlotte just in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And there's nothing too spectacular there. It should be easy 3.
We play Charlotte how many times, and we play Seattle for the first time in like 9 years or whatever.
Right.
That's a good shout, though, with the Drew Yearwood thing up top. It will be interesting to see if, after 3 weeks of training among themselves, if there's a different approach up top or if we're going to continue with that sort of idea. It's hard to say. My impression of the Yearwood up top thing was sort of a short-term fix or solution, but hey, maybe it sticks around. The lineup on Wednesday could be very informative, especially since Morgan getting hurt happened at the very beginning of this break. It didn't happen like halfway through or towards the end, so we will have had time to think about how they want to shape the team.
Yeah, I mean, really, outside of Reyes being suspended, this should be your first glimpse at what the first choice team is in a while.
Yeah, and Luquinhas was starting to combine better in the last couple games, I think including this Orlando game, despite the crooked score. So I think maybe this 3 weeks could have been a good time to train a bit and continue to get him more involved with the team, team's link-up play moving forward. That's a more optimistic, I think, look at it. And, I think these are far from must-wins, per se, because I think you can move up the bottom of the table so quickly, because everyone's just starving for points. But, Wednesday would be a very solid win in terms of it would catapult us like over 4 teams in the table, and we our goal differential is better than all of the other ones around us. It would we've got a game in hand on a couple teams, and it would kind of put us among the playoff spots. And I think not that the players are too demoralized by not doing that, but I think it could just be a boost to see us jump that, make that kind of progress in the table rather than sort of stagnating, because we have been so far been playing better and having better form, but sort of been just catching up and not making progress in the table. So just this first one against Charlotte alone could be a good step forward, and then maybe a draw against Atlanta it would not be the end of the world, but 6 points would be massive. I think if we get 6 points this week, it allows you to actually maybe dream a little bit more for this season, understanding that it's still house money. But 4 points, I think, is fine.
Just right in time for Leagues Cup.
Jesus
Getting
Christ.
hot at just the right time.
Hey, I mean, if we win Leagues Cup, that's CCL, right?
Is it only the winners that go in?
It's also Super CCL now. It's not CCL anymore. It's CCC.
Oh yeah,
it's North America now. North America and the Caribbean and Central America.
Oh boy. Well, something to look forward to. Anything else? I think that's a good place to end it otherwise. All right, till then.
It's Alex! Firstly, and the country, till I can get my satisfaction.